IKEA just filed 4 new FCC registrations for devices they already sell. Same product names, same prices, same boxes on the shelf, but brand new hardware inside. And the only way to tell the difference is a tiny code printed on the label that almost nobody checks. The 4 devices getting this revision are the MIG spray motion sensor, the MIGBet door and window sensor, and both versions of the Bilrisa remote, the dual button and the scroll wheel. These are part of IKEA's first native matter-over-thread battery lineup, and they launched with real problems. Pairing failures, unresponsive sensors, short battery life. So why is IKEA swapping the guts, instead of just pushing a firmware update? And more importantly, does this actually fix the biggest complaint, which is that these devices work great on some platforms and barely function on others? Let's add some quick context first. In November 2025, IKEA announced 21 new Matter-compatible products, the biggest smart home launch in the company's history. Smart bulbs, motion sensors, contact sensors, air quality monitors, water leak detectors, remotes, and smart plugs, all running Matter over Thread. They started hitting European stores in December 2025 and rolled out to the US in January and February. Since then, IKEA has kept filing products. New ceiling lights, a battery-powered wall light, neon light strips, even a smart anti-fog mirror have all appeared at the FCC in 2026. We've covered several of those in earlier videos. But this latest batch is different because IKEA isn't registering new products. They're re-registering existing ones. All 4 of these devices run on something called Matter over Thread. You can think of Thread as a mesh network specifically built for small, low-powered smart home gadgets, just like a Wi-Fi network, but designed so a tiny motion sensor running on a single AAA battery can talk reliably to your hub without draining itself in a week. And then we have Matter. This is the universal language riding on top of that network, the thing that's supposed to let every device work with every platform. These 4 products are priced between about $6 and $8, and at that price, nobody else is even close. But the early experience was rough. At launch, The Verge reported managing to connect only 2 out of 6 IKEA devices after 2 weeks of trying. One user on Reddit bought 59 Bilrisa remotes and got 29 to pair, so around 50%. IKEA went out and acknowledged the issue publicly. Their smart home range manager told The Verge they were working with the Connectivity Standards Alliance to fix it. Since then, firmware updates have helped. The Dirigera hub got stability improvements in version 2.934, and the Bilrisa and MIGBet recently received device-level updates pushing Matter 1.4. Things are better than they were at launch, especially through the Dirigera hub. But apparently, some of the problems sit deeper than software can reach. So what exactly is changing inside these devices? Under FCC rules, a manufacturer only needs to file a completely new equipment authorization when it changes a core component, the radio chip, the antenna design, or the power management circuitry. A firmware patch or a cosmetic redesign doesn't trigger that. So a new FCC IDs mean new silicon. Kristen Lin, a technical expert at TUV Rhineland, one of the labs that runs Matter certification testing, confirmed to Matter Alpha that replacing the radio chipset would require a brand new FCC ID. The current devices all run on the Qorvo QPG6200L. It's a multi-protocol chip, handles Thread, Zigbee, and Bluetooth all on one piece of silicon. That's how IKEA's devices pull off their neatest trick. They can run Matter over Thread to talk to your hub, or you can do Zigbee touch-link binding to control bulbs directly without a hub. So one chip with 2 protocols at the same time, but if the radio design has issues, range problems, antenna inefficiency, power draw during sleep, that's not something firmware can patch. You need new hardware. And there's a second reason this might be happening right now, and it has nothing to do with bugs. The semiconductor market in 2026 is brutal. Memory manufacturers have shifted capacity toward high-bandwidth chips for AI data centers, and that squeeze ripples across the entire supply chain, including the small, cheap chips that go into an $8 motion sensor. At IKEA's scale, tens of millions of devices, even a few cents per chip adds up fast. So qualifying a second chip supplier or redesigning around a cheaper alternative could be as much about cost resilience as it is about fixing reliability. Probably a bit of both. The hardware is interesting, but the question most people actually care about is whether these devices work with their platform. And right now the experience is wildly inconsistent depending on which ecosystem you're in. Apple Home is the best experience for the Bilrisa remotes. Full support for single press, double press, and long press. It just works. You don't even need a Dirigera hub, a HomePod, or Apple TV acts as your thread border router, and the buttons pair directly. The one reported issue is onboarding timeouts when multiple border routers compete, say a HomePod and a Dirigera hub both trying to claim the device. Samsung SmartThings is a close second. All 3 press types work, automations fire reliably, and Samsung was one of the fastest to adopt the newer Matter button specs. Home Assistant is powerful but takes some work. The Bilrisa remotes show up as Matter events rather than simple entity state changes, so a button press fires an event you catch with an automation, not a toggle you flip. Community blueprints exist for single, double, hold, and scroll wheel dimming, which helps a lot. A known issue here is that thread devices can appear, work for a few minutes, then stop updating. A Matter subscription expiry bug that requires restarting the Matter server. So 3 platforms where these mostly work. What about the 2 biggest ecosystems in the world? Google Home didn't even recognize Matter switches as automation triggers until app version 4.8 in February 2026. Before that, tapping a Bilrisa button literally showed "Support coming soon" in the app. Even after the update, users report buttons pairing then disconnecting, or automations that never fire. The remotes were the one IKEA device type that consistently failed on Google Home. Amazon is similar, buttons pair then disconnect, and Amazon doesn't fully support all 3 press types. The sensors fare better than the remotes on both platforms, but still aren't reliable enough to build automations around. Homey Pro connects these devices, but it can't push Matter firmware updates. You'd need Apple Home or the IKEA app for that. So, can a hardware revision fix those platform gaps? Partially. A better radio chip can fix pairing reliability, connection drops, and battery drain. Those are hardware level problems. But the reason Google Home can't properly trigger automations from a button press, or the reason Amazon drops the connection after pairing, those are platform-side software problems. IKEA can ship the cleanest hardware in the world, and it won't help until Google and Amazon finish implementing the Matter switch specs in their apps. New hardware can make these devices connect faster and stay connected longer. It can't make Google Home understand what to do with the signal once it arrives. And there's one more thing to keep an eye on. If IKEA switches to a completely different chip, say from Qorvo to Silicon Labs or Telink, both of which IKEA uses in other products, that would mean maintaining 2 separate firmware codebases. One for old units, one for new. That could mean the revised versions get updates on a different schedule, or that one version lags behind the other. If IKEA stays within the Qorvo family, just a newer revision of the same chip, they could run one firmware across both, which would be far cleaner. Nobody knows which path they've taken yet because the internal FCC photos are still confidential. So the practical takeaway from all of this should be this. If you're on Apple Home or SmartThings, these devices are already a solid buy at under $8, and the revised versions should only improve the connection reliability. If you're on Home Assistant, they work well once you set up the event-based automations. Just know the Matter subscription bug might need an occasional server restart. And if you're on Google Home or Amazon, hold off. The button support isn't fully there yet, and new hardware won't change that. Those platforms need software updates on their end. And when these revised units do start appearing on shelves, the way to tell them apart is the FCC ID on the product label. The revised units will carry different FCC IDs. Same product name, same box, different label. And for anyone who's tried to pair one of these and watched it fail, this could be the fix that firmware alone couldn't deliver. Whether that improvement actually lands depends on what chip IKEA chose and whether Google and Amazon catch up on their end. When those internal FCC photos go public, I'll update you. If you want to stay on top of smart home news like this, subscribing is the easiest way to make sure you don't miss it. And until next time, keep it smart, keep it simple, and keep it affordable.